Shotgun with my hair undone in the front seat of his car. But I keep cruising, can't stop, won't stop moving. Big reputation, oh, you and me would be a big conversation. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I follow.
Alright, so listen. Today is January 1st. My sister has bought both of us tickets for this Taylor Swift DJ dance party thing on the 29th. So I have until the 29th to convince myself that I need to be a Taylor Swift fan. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory, I've never really been into Taylor. My sister really likes Taylor. But I grew up on punk rock and metal and things like that. And so Taylor's just out of my radar. For a long time, I made fun of people for liking her because she was so popular. And my whole series of getting into new artists is to kind of deter me from doing that, and also other people, to show that every artist has benefits. So I've got about a month to get into Taylor Swift. I'm going to listen to all of her albums. I'm going to hop on the Taylor Swift Reddit, ask some questions, figure out what I need to consume, what I really need to take in and learn about, and see if I can't become a Taylor Swift fan by the end of this. We'll see how it goes. I'm slightly worried, but also excited. So I listened to 4 albums this week, and I've researched a ridiculous amount of Taylor. I've watched more YouTube videos about her than I would ever care to, but it's coming along. First of all, self-titled. It's good. It's well made. It's very, very country. It is a country album. I think I could learn to like it if I listened to it a lot more. However, I will say, everyone complained, when she became more of a pop star than a country star. But listening to this album, most of these songs just feel like pop songs, but with steel guitar. It feels like she wrote a few really good pop licks, and they were like, hey, let's put some steel guitar, some fiddle, and add some twang in there, and make this into a country song. Teardrops on My Guitar is a banger. It is, I'll admit it. It's a pretty good song. Our Song, I will forever love that song. It's pretty great. It's definitely the best song off of this album. As far as first albums go, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good album. Fearless, as soon as you start Fearless, you're like, okay, this is better. This is a better album. Every time 15 comes on, I sing along with it because it's stinking catchy. Love Story is also great. It's a little more cringy. I don't like Hey Steven at all. Do not like it. It's one of those albums that the first half of it is top notch. The first half is fantastic. It's really good. Second half is when it starts to get a little less good. Of all 4 albums I've listened to so far, they're too long. That is my main complaint here. They're really long. None of these albums should be over 50 minutes, but all of them are. Immediately after that, I listened to Taylor's version of Fearless. Production is better, and I have to say, I'm so impressed at how well they duplicated the sound. They did better than 90% of all the classic rock bands that have went back and re-recorded their stuff. The one drawback of the re-recording is there's a few of these songs. I mean, Taylor is how many years older? And you can tell there's a lot of these that she is not in the same mindset. She doesn't feel these things as strongly. So there's a little... She's a better singer now, but there's a little less emotional emphasis on some of these things that I think is obvious if you listen to them back to back. If you were just listening to them on their own, you probably wouldn't know. Hey Steven still sucks. Still sucks. Bad song. Don't like it. Of the new songs from the vault, Mr. Perfectly Fine is definitely the best. Might make some people angry with this one. Listening to her version of this reminds me why I convinced myself I didn't like Taylor all those years ago. Because it all sounds the same. And her adding her from the vault songs, they also all sound the same. So much so that when I finished Taylor's version, I was just going to go right into Speak Now. And then I started it and immediately had to turn it off because I knew if I listened to it then, I would hate it. So I waited a day. I'm not saying it's a bad sound. It's just that there's so much of the same sound that I'm tired of it by the end of these very long albums. I know why she's doing her versions and all that stuff, and I know why they sound the same. But I would like it if, like, along with re-releasing this version, if she did, like, if she redid all of these songs in a way she would do now. If she took the styles that she uses now, that she enjoys now, and more specifically, the producers that she uses now, because one thing about Taylor, girl knows how to pick producers. Maybe we'll see that one day. Not all of the songs. I don't need an entire album of it. If she just wants to do, like, her greatest hits done as new Taylor would do them, that'd be great. I would love that. Speak Now. My sister's is, like, really big fan of Taylor. She's been listening to her for a long time, and Speak Now was the first album that she really got into. I've been wanting to do that Anthony Fantano thing where he goes transition. Worked. What are your thoughts on Speak Now? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I don't listen to music like you listen to music. I don't overanalyze things. Speak Now was the first one that I pre-ordered. Fearless, like, I listened to it, but I didn't. I think at that point I had an iPod and I downloaded like 4 songs and I only listened to those 4 songs. Yeah. So Speak Now was the first one that I, like, actively sought out. I pre-ordered it. I had the CD. I got all of the little special stuff that came with it. I think I got a pack that had, like, a t-shirt and stuff. But I only had a CD player in my car, so I would put Speak Now in and leave it for weeks. Mm-hmm. And, like, every time I got in the car, it was Speak Now.
I remember.
I would drive home from college and just listen to it like 4 times.
Yeah, no, I remember those days.
So it's just very nostalgic for me. It was like the feeling of she was growing up with me. I didn't like college. I didn't like being away from home.
Yeah.
So Never Grow Up was a big one for me. Like, I would sit in my dorm room and just cry when I was really feeling homesick and listen to that one. Like, the part when she talks about being in her own apartment and tucking herself in. Like,
what a Taylor thing to do.
I would just lay in my bed and tuck myself in and listen to that. Like, I
liked this one. As soon as it started, I forgot about Mine. But I really like that song. Mm-hmm. It's really fun. Which is weird because it's pretty country.
It is pretty country.
It's pretty country. But I think it could not be. I think it could easily transition.
Well, and this is kind of right in between her.
Yeah, it's right before Red, so it's right before she really started playing with stuff. Yeah. But this album, like, hands down better than Fearless.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
It's way better. Which,
it's like she took there were good songs on Fearless, and it's like this whole album kind of embodied those good songs. Yeah. Like, Fearless was pretty big, but I think a lot of people were like me and really got into her with this one.
This was after, because she won Best Album with Fearless, and she had won a lot of awards with Fearless. Mm-hmm. She, of course, had the Kanye thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that brought a lot of attention to her. This would have been, this was after SNL.
Yes.
This would have been after
that.
About
SNL.
Yeah, and so, like, there would have been a lot of eyes on her. But it's also, like, this is the only thing I'm saying about Kanye and Taylor. I talked to her about this earlier. I know everyone who watches this is going to be like, ooh, when we get to Red, he's going to talk about Kanye and Taylor. I don't care. I will not talk about Kanye or any of the boyfriends or any of that.
And I do think, not to keep you on it too long, but I do think that's also, like, that made a lot of people side with her. And that's when we became, like, the fanatic Swifties of, like, we're going to protect her at all costs.
Yes.
Like, it brought that about, too.
Yeah, it's a good album. I really like Haunted, but I think it's just nostalgia. I don't think it's actually a good song. It's got that kind of... It's got strings on it. And it sounds like Evanescence and Skillet.
It does, yeah.
And I think that's what that is.
Yeah.
I think I'm like, oh, this sounds like 2003.
I never thought about Skillet, but it really does have a Skillet
sound. It sounds like
sound.
Skillet.
Yeah.
It sounds like Comatose.
Yes.
This was an alright week. Next week's going to be better. Week 2 of becoming a Taylor Swift fan is down. I waited a decent amount of time to record this one. So long, in fact, that I've already started the next section and I'm recording it later this week. Because I listened to Red this week. And I know that Red is a really big album in her discography. It is a fan favorite. And I didn't enjoy it, so I figured I should listen to it more times to see if I would learn to like it, to see if I would find something to appreciate about it, things like that, and not a fan. To me, the album itself just feels bland. State of Grace, the first song, I cannot get it out of my head that it sounds like CCM, contemporary Christian music. It sounds like Hillsong to me every time I listen to it, and I cannot get that out of my head. I've never liked the song 22. I didn't like it when it came out. I still don't like it now. All Too Well is probably the best song in the album. It's a good song. It's a good length. Be a real shame if she were to make it longer. Yeah, it's honestly, I think it's my least favorite album so far, and I'm surprised I am saying it. I've listened to it 3 times now, all the way through. And then, of course, I listened to Taylor's version of Red, which I didn't actually finish. I tried to listen to it on a few different occasions, and I couldn't finish it. It's over 2 hours long. It's a long album, and I didn't like Red enough to really want more of it. It's definitely an album for Taylor fans, for people who really, really enjoyed Red, and that's great. But I am not one of those people, and I'm going to make this joke once. All Too Well, more like All Too Long. Should not be 10 minutes. Oh my goodness, it is so long.
That's what she said.
And I listen to a lot of songs that are 10 minutes or longer. But this song is just, there's not a whole lot of bridges, which is one of the things that Taylor is best at, is bridges. There's not a whole lot of change in it. There's not a whole lot of complexity. But after 10 minutes of it, you're just like, ooh, that's a whole lot of acoustic guitar. Next, I listened to the album I was most looking forward to, 1989. It is way more layered than I realized when I listened to it with headphones in, and you can hear all the complexities and the really like subtle things underneath the music. It's really good. She made a shorter album. This one comes in at like 44 minutes. So not bad, not bad. I still think it could be shorter. I think if you took off How You Get the Girl and This Love, I think it'd be a perfect album. And honestly, if you took those off and then replaced them with New Romantics and the other song from her deluxe version, like You Are in Love or something like that, I think that would make it better, because those songs are really good and they're better than both of those. And I think they fit the sound of the album better as well. She got together an amazing group of producers for this album. Max Martin, Shellback, Jack Antonoff, Ryan Tedder, like so many huge names that have made amazing award-winning albums. I've always loved the sound of this album. I think my favorite song is probably Style. I really like that Knight Rider synthy kind of sound underneath it. It's really good. Probably my favorite so far, and I expected that going into this. Taylor has won 3 Best of the Year album awards from the Grammys, and 1989 was one of them. Came out in 2014. A lot of really good music came out in 2014. And I think the one that is most commonly debated, because it was also nominated, I've seen it talked about a few times when talking about 1989, is To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. One of the best albums of the 2010s. So then I listened to Reputation. And I will say, when I went into this, before I started, I told my sister, Reputation is gonna be my least favorite. But I finished it, and it's my second favorite album so far. The sound is definitely not the sound I would usually go for, but the album itself is so cohesive. I like cohesive albums from artists, and this is her most cohesive that I've listened to so far, and I like it. I think I like Endgame. I'm not really positive on it. I am not a huge Ed Sheeran fan, and I don't like Future. But I think I like that song. The one song that I strongly dislike is the Look What You Made Me Do. I don't like... That one's meh. I liked that album a lot. A lot more than I expected. I was very surprised by it. It was one of those, like, as I was listening to it, I was like, oh no. Oh no, I'm liking this. Why am I liking this? But I do. Decent week of Taylor music. I am looking forward to the upcoming music. And I've got like the Miss Americana documentary. I'm going to watch her Reputation tour thing. And I'm just going to take in a whole lot of Taylor information because this Saturday is my whole Taylor dance party thing. So I've got this week leading up to that to become a Taylor Swift fan. And then after that, I will record my thoughts. But it's coming along. It's coming along. Week 3 of Taylor is done, and I took in a ton of Taylor. There was a lot of things that I couldn't watch until I reached this point. So I've watched those things now. But starting off, I listened to Lover, which I really liked. I really liked the sound of that album. I didn't take any notes on that album because I really like the sound of it. There's not a lot of things on it that just stuck out to me. I really like the title track, Lover. It's a really, really good song. I know she said she made that as a song for couples to slow dance to. That was the whole idea behind it, and I really like it. It sounds like a really good slow dance song. It's a good album. It's a great sound. After that, I listened to Folklore. Let me tell you, it's a really, really solid album. It's easily my favorite album so far. Easily. I love the idea behind it, just telling stories that is so freaking cool. I love the vibe and the sound of it. It has such a good sound. I think Betty, better than anything else on this album, shows Taylor's growth because it kind of has an old Taylor feel to it, but it's obviously new production. She's a better storyteller. She's a better singer. And it's a better made song. Last Great American Dynasty might be my favorite song by Taylor. Is that better? Does that pick up my sound better? It should. Evermore also has a great sound. It goes back to that folky sound that Folklore has. Very similar production, made very close in time to each other. It's a good album. It's very enjoyable. The problem with Evermore for me mostly was that it's all really slow. All of it is very slow, which is fine, but it's long, like most Taylor albums, and just after listening to the whole thing, that slowness really hits, and it gets a little... It can feel a little drawn out at times. After that, I finished all of the albums. I watched Miss Americana. It was a good documentary. It was interesting to see how some things were made and how things were changing, and just to see the person behind all of it. I do wish they would have focused on the music a little bit more. They didn't do that very much, which I know it was more about Taylor and not about her music, but I wanted to see more production and writing. But what did that better is Long Pond Sessions. I loved Long Pond Sessions because it focused on the music. I've tried my best during this to separate Taylor from the art and just focus on the music because I knew that would help me enjoy Taylor more because that's how I like music. And that's been really difficult to do with this one. But Long Pond Sessions did that well. I love her talking about the story of Betty and August and her headcanon of how all of them relate to each other. That is so cool. I love the song August. I think it is gorgeous. I love how Taylor gets nervous about asking people things. Like she was talking about like the National guy, talking to him about producing and getting Bon Iver, and she's like, are they going to say yes? Like she's not Taylor Swift. And I've also been listening to a lot of This Is Taylor on Spotify, and that is definitely the best way to listen to Taylor. It's helped me to appreciate songs I may not have when I was listening to entire albums. Like, I realized Enchanted from Speak Now. I love that song. For some reason, if you described it to me, I wouldn't think that I'd like it, but I do. I really enjoy that song. And it's stuff like that. Like, random songs, I'll be like, I don't remember this on the album because I was so focused on the album. And so that's helped me a lot. I'm feeling significantly better now than I was like 2 days ago. Because I've just figured out better ways to enjoy Taylor. So we'll see how I feel by the end of this. Honestly, this is the most conflicting becoming a fan I've done. This whole time I've been wavering on whether I'd end up being a fan or not, and how I answer all of my test questions that I do at the end of all of these. And every other becoming a fan I've done, it's pretty obvious I'm a fan. This one, not so much. I keep going back and forth, so we'll see. I don't know.
Whiskey I've had, and I'm still not drunk enough for this crowd. It's a lot.
So my party thing, my Taylor Swift DJ dance party thing, it happened. I went. The thing that sticks out the most is that crowd was insane. After like 5 songs maybe, I left where me and my sister were kind of in the dead center. I left her to go get a drink. The hardest crowd I've ever had to work to get out of. It was like incredibly difficult to get out of. I'm off to the side, by the bar, just kind of hanging out in the back. And I texted my girlfriend and said that it was the most I'd ever been pushed outside of a mosh pit at a show. Because it really was like this. Oh my gosh, these girls were just no spatial awareness. At one point, I went to the bathroom, and when I walked in, there was a circle of girls sitting on the floor in the men's bathroom just crying together. I heard one of them say, "You're pretty." It was that kind of show. But more importantly, I think I would have enjoyed it more, but the guy in charge of it really didn't choose good music. Like, while we were there from the beginning, and we left, I think, an hour before it ended. But like, in that time, the only song he played off of 1989 was from the deluxe edition, and it was one that I hadn't heard. Like, it was that. It was, all of the girls were insane, screaming along with the songs and stuff like that. But for anyone who's not, like, super knowledgeable about those albums, not for you. It was, even my sister said that there was songs on there that she hadn't heard. But I think I would have really enjoyed it had the guy picked some of the more mainstream Taylor Swift songs. Okay, it has been over a month of becoming a Taylor Swift fan. This has made me more than like Taylor and enjoy Taylor's music. It's made me respect Taylor more. It's made me see how important she's really going to be. She will be one of those artists that we talk about when we talk about histories of music, when we talk about icons in the industry. She's going to be one of those names that pops up for a very long time. I respect how much she's really done to show her real self in this. She's done to really speak her mind, and really talk about matters that matter to her. She's just a good musician and an amazing songwriter. She really is. So am I a fan? I'm admittedly hesitant to call myself a Taylor Swift fan. I'm not crazy about her. I don't really care about watching stuff about her. I like her music, and that's the thing that I've kind of decided to focus on. I think I do enjoy enough of her music that I can call myself a Taylor Swift fan. I like her past 5 albums, so there's that. That is 5 out of how many? 9 albums? That's pretty good. And I honestly liked her first 3. And the more I talk about this right now off the cuff, the more I realize, yeah, I'm a Taylor Swift fan. Would I buy a t-shirt? No. I have yet to see a Taylor Swift shirt that I would consider buying. Would I buy vinyl? Unlikely. If I were to buy vinyl of Taylor, I would maybe buy Folklore or 1989. But it would have to be a really cool disc, maybe a really cool color, or just a really good price. But I wouldn't seek it out. So Taylor is very divisive when you bring her up. I've known that for a long time, but I've noticed it more recently because I'll bring her up around people, and certain people will talk to me about Taylor, and other people are like, ugh, you're going to a Taylor Swift dance party? Don't even talk to me. You've lost respect. That kind of thing, which I hate. I hate people who are all gatekeepy and things like that. She's got some great songs that I will love for a long time and that I like more than I would like to admit. And she will continue to be incredibly important. And I am indeed a Taylor Swift fan. I am. And I will defend her against anyone else that talks about how terrible she is and how mainstream it is and stuff like that. No! All Taylor is a pop artist who likes to write songs about her ex-boyfriends and play victim about everything, and then cry with her guitar. Ugh. And re-releasing all of her old albums? Oh, whatever. Yeah, because she needs more money. I'm sorry, that happened last time, and I don't know what that is. I've been trying to figure that out. I'm sorry about that. But no, she's great. She's great. Go listen to something new. Listen to maybe someone that you've dissed on for a long time and thought that you just didn't like. Go really seek them out. Try out their music and give it an honest try. Find what you really think. Or go listen to something entirely new. Just go find something random. Maybe ask someone for a suggestion, or look at your Spotify Discover Weekly, or just find something new and try to be adventurous in your music.